Hi there. I'm Tina McElroy, Ansa, and welcome to Two Old Chicks Who Know a Lot of Shit, episode 3. Wanda, can you believe we're in episode 3?
It is hard to believe. Isn't this exciting?
It really is. Y'all,
Yeah.
y'all have y'all have no idea. This is a brand new world for us, and it's happening. So we're thrilled with it. Thank you for joining us. We're here to share some wisdom, some stories, some good vibes with you. So let's get started. Ready to get started, Wanda?
I'm ready. Yes, I
Okay.
am. So,
Let's
in
check
our
in.
last episode, we introduced a segment called the check-in. It's a way for us to share, a little bit about what's going on in our lives, which defines who we are in our season years. So, some of our check-ins are personal. Some of them are about the work we're doing, and we are working. The check-in includes Tina's post-its and Wanda's calendar. Tina loves her post-its, so she puts all her good ideas on them and she sticks them all up around the house. So, Tina, what's on your post-its this time?
Well, I have it right here. And this
Okay.
time it is a really exciting postage for me because it's about
Mm.
gardening. You're a gardener, Wanda, and I'm a
I,
gardener.
yeah,
Then
well, you're a real gardener. I'm just kind of pretending to be a gardener.
no, I think we both thought you told me today, though. Wanda told me today, we're going to be recording tonight. Come on out of that garden and come on
I
in and do
did.
the work.
Hmm.
So she knows me, as you can see. But it's not just my garden I'm talking about this time on my post-it. This is a reminder to organize and put together and think about the garden that I am going to be giving my girlfriend who lives across the bridge and has bought a beautiful house and an old house that she's painted beautifully and redone. And it's been a while, she's been doing this for a while. So my note reminds me to organize my bags for my the black fabric bags that I like. We'll talk about those maybe on the garden.
Hmm.
But they really do work. And I have to organize them by size and by number. And I'm going to estimate how much soil I'm going to need. And which I'm very thrilled about because my friend has 3 little helpers. They're 14 years old. And so it's going to be easy peasy doing this. So I'm going to repot the healthiest seedlings that I have because I have little seedlings that are
Hmm.
small so she can go. And my girlfriend is a vegetarian, by the way.
Oh,
So
yeah.
vegetable garden is just like the best thing. I want to see how about transporting the plants and all of that. So I can't wait till the workers who are renovating still renovating the house, stop trampling through. So I've picked out my spot and, I'm ready to get started.
So, what kind of seedlings are you planting this time of year? Because because of you, I got the idea to plant some lettuce, and man, it was good. But now the lettuce is gone, so my garden, of course, is in pots. So what should I put in that particular pot this time of year?
Well, I have to start by saying we're quite limited because Wanda doesn't like tomatoes.
Hmm.
She lives in Georgia. She doesn't like tomatoes. So that's off the table. One of the good things about where we live, Wanda, is we might as well be north. We might as well be in North Florida. And I think
Hmm.
we can plant seeds all year long until it gets to be wintertime. But we can plant seeds for plants. 3 seasons out of the year. So,
Hmm.
I have all kinds of plants for my friend. I have little tomato plants and little eggplants. I've tried to time it so that they wouldn't all come,
Yeah, right.
at the same time. But for your garden, the lettuce, if it is in a shady place, you can still
Hmm.
grow greens in the summertime. They just can't stay, take that heat. But I suggest you start with some real herbs. You love herbs.
Hmm.
You
And
know,
I have a lot of them. I do like herbs. Yeah,
Mhm. You cook
yeah,
with herbs and all the
yeah.
rest. So
Hmm.
I probably would suggest herbs since you don't like tomatoes, and it's a little early to be putting
You
in.
just have to blast me out twice that I don't like tomatoes. Now all the tomato lovers are going to be writing notes about Wanda doesn't like tomatoes.
Well, you kind of deserve it, but
I know, right?
I mean, people dream. Well, it's funny, people dream about Georgia tomatoes, all winter long. People, who have lived in Georgia, I've heard them talk about it. I dreamed about Georgia tomatoes, and at the time I wasn't a big tomato person, but you kind of connect. Many of them are grown in Florida, but you kind of connect Georgia tomatoes with the summer, and all kinds of evocative feelings and. like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much what I'm going to do on what I have on my
Okay. Well, I'm
but
glad. Go
so
ahead.
now I was just going to explain before you tell them what's going on. I am going to tell you about Wanda and her calendars. As much as I love my Post-its, Wanda loves her calendar.
Mm-hmm.
She puts everything on the calendar. She puts my stuff on my calendar. Bless her heart. That's how she organizes her life. So we want to check in with Wanda. When you check in with Wanda, you have to check in with her calendar. What's on your calendar, Wanda?
Well, one of the things that's on my calendar is about a monthly Zoom session. So this is a serious thing. It's not as it's fun, but it's also serious. So I Zoom once a month with a group of former editors. Some of us are retired, some of us are former. I joined a newspaper organization, a leadership organization in 1999, and there were very few African Americans, very few people of color. You could count us on one hand, those of us who were at the top level who qualified to be in this organization. But it was a wonderful organization. We learned so much there.
I'm sorry. How did you qualify to be in this?
You have to be a managing editor or an executive editor or editor-in-chief of a news organization, newspaper.
And that's why there
at that time.
You said there were not.
There were just not that many people. It was mostly made up. I mean, we had more than 1,000 members, and it was male and overwhelmingly male and white. There were some women, and so this organization. We formed this informal group inside the organization. We called it the Kitchen Cabinet. It was just a group of people of color who were members and qualified to be in this organization. And our goal was to get more of us in the organization. The only way to do that is to sort of watch who was rising at their own news organization. And then as soon as they got those jobs, we would call them and say, you need to join this group. You need to be a part of the bigger organization. And then as soon as they came into this group, it was the American Society of Newspaper Editors, it was called at the time. The name has changed a couple of times since then. As soon as they came in, we worked really hard behind the scenes, and I'm talking behind the scenes. Some would say it might have been a secret group, but we would urge them to run for the board. And after you get on the board, you get on the ladder, you get to be president. You start at the lower level as like treasurer, then secretary, then vice president, then president. And so this was our way of making sure that we had quite a few people who look like us in the pipeline to lead this organization so that we could address some of the issues in the industry and make sure that diversity was high on the list of priorities for the newspaper business. So now that we've retired or left our newsrooms, we still have some conversations about the status of the media. And we just have a lot of fun just talking once a month like that, informally.
Yeah. What are y'all talking about now? What would be these days?
Well, in our last conversation, we talked about Nicole Hannah-Jones. She's the New York Times journalist, as you know, who created the 1619 Project, which the Times used to reframe the history of slavery in the United States. And she's so qualified. She is a MacArthur Fellow. She won a Pulitzer Prize for her commentary for this 1619 Project. So her alma mater, which is University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, one of the best journalism schools in the country, invited her to be a faculty member, and they wanted to offer her tenure, which is like the most coveted thing you can get as a faculty member. And
she's there for life. You don't have to worry about anything.
Exactly. You got a job for life. As long as you do the job, you don't have to worry about going up for retention. Well, you do have to sort of pre-qualify a little bit, but you have a job for life. You're absolutely right. And so the university's dean and the faculty voted, and they passed it on to the board of trustees, which is a normal process. And I've been on a college board of trustees, and it's just kind of pro forma. We know that these people have been vetted before they come to us. Yes. And so normally you just vote. Yes, if this is what the faculty wants and the dean wants and the president wants, this has gone up that high, then yes, we want her at our university. They turned her down for tenure. They didn't turn her down for the job, just for tenure. She said, well, I'm not coming here if I don't get tenure. And she she, so they're sort of going back and forth. So that's, kind of what we've been.
And there was really a real outcry from the community, from the scholastic community, not just folks in the and
scholastic community, the journalism community. I think the board, as I understand it, got caught up in this whole conversation about culture. They said, and at least one of their big donors pulled back, and so the board kind of caved and said, "No, we're not gonna go there." So apparently, there's another chance where they're gonna vote soon, and we'll see. But we've been sort of talking this up in our little kitchen cabinet, and we don't have a dog in that fight. I mean, we can't do anything about it, but it helps us to talk about it. And sometimes we do discuss issues where we might make a phone call to somebody if we feel like it's something we can help with, and we've actually done that. So that was on my calendar, and it was a pretty important and deep discussion.
Yeah, it sounds like.
Yeah. Good
things. Good things.
So Tina, we have an exciting guest today to help us talk about a topic near and dear to our hearts. We call this segment "For the Love of Writing." Now, since my memoir, Coming Full Circle, From Jim Crow to Journalism, was published last year, I met so many people who told me they have a story to write and they ask for advice on how to get started. And Tina, while I'm flattered as a relatively new author, I don't see myself as the house expert on storytelling outside of journalism, of course. I know how to do that. So we're really excited about our guest. So, tell us about who we're going to have today.
Okay. Well, we are talking about writing. As Wanda said, that that's what we do. That's who we are. We write, we edit, we publish, and we've both been doing it for a long time. And frankly, we know a lot of shit about it. But we have a guest today who maybe a little bit more shit than we do in certain areas of writing. Today, we are blessed and honored to have with us one of the best writers and teachers and friends, and that is novelist Bernice McFadden. She's going to help frame the conversation. So welcome, Bernice.
Hello. Thank you.
Hi, Bernice. Hey, we're so glad to have you. You and I haven't met.
To be here.
Good. You and I haven't met in person, but I feel like we're sister friends through Tina.
Absolutely.
Well, I said I was going to start before we even got started. I'll have to tell you, Bernice and I have been loving each other for really decades, and we met in California for the first time maybe in 2009 or 10 or something. It was around then.
Yeah, somewhere around
there. May have been earlier. And there's this wonderful picture. I should have brought it up. There's this wonderful picture of us sitting in a hotel lobby, across from each other. One of the hotel lobby chairs and everything, and we're just holding hands and just mooning and loving on each other. Yes. It's a wonderful. We weren't talking.
And the caption said, "Finally."
Finally, absolutely. And we were, just holding hands. Well, I haven't seen Bernice in a while. We keep up with each other with Facebook and emails and all the rest. And she is connected to me also because I'm from Macon, Georgia. And Bernice has people in Macon, Georgia. She's written about Macon, Georgia. And she happened to be.
And I'm in Macon, Georgia right now as we speak.
Wow.
Are you really? Oh my goodness, you're near Wanda and
you're right down the road, girl.
Right down the road. We're gonna have to talk afterwards. I should have felt you in Macon. I kind of felt something. I felt some disturbance in the force. But at any rate, so we had been talking about coming down and all the rest. And one Sunday morning this spring, I got a text from this person. I did not recognize the phone number, and then I got a phone call, and the next thing I know, Sunday morning, here come Bernice and her friends walking down my country road, my dirt road. It was like a miracle, a phone call, a text, and here she is. We hadn't seen each other in years. We hugged, fully vaccinated, outside.
She hugged the tears out of me.
Oh.
Yeah, it was really wonderful. So thank you so much for joining us, Bernice. I just wanted to sort of let people know I think sometimes people either think that writers are always in each other's kitchen and always in the same room or the same house, same city, and we
Right.
just rarely see each other. Many times, unless there are events. So
True.
yeah, so that's how I've been keeping up. That's how we keep up with each other. So it was a real blessing. So when we were talking about writing, Bernice, your name came up. I mean, Bernice is known as a writer's writer. She writes for beauty and she writes for words. She writes for atmosphere. She brings all of those things. She brings history. She brings all of those things to her writing. So we wanted to share her with you because, as Wanda and I have said many times, we meet so many people, and everybody want to write. Everybody got a story. We're going to tell. But first, we're going to tell Bernice's story. If you don't mind, Bernice, I want to give the folks a formal, a little bit more formal idea of what you do.
Thank
Bernice
you.
L. McFadden is the author of 10 critically acclaimed novels, including, now everybody's going to stop and I got to do this slowly because everybody stopped at their favorite. Sugar, Loving Donovan, Nowhere is a Place, The Warmest Winter, Gathering of Waters, a New York Times Editor's Choice, and one of the 100 notable books of the year in 2012. Glorious, oh my goodness, and The Book of Harlan is the winner of the 2017 American Book Award and the NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Literary Work in Fiction. Bernice is a 4-time Hurston Wright Legacy Award finalist, as well as the recipient of 4 awards from the BCALA, the Black Caucus of the American Library Association, praise songs for The Butterflies, which I reviewed. I had the honor and the joy of reviewing for the LA Review of Books. And that is her latest novel. She is professor, and this is what I love. Oh, you know how you read sometimes when people really capture everything in just a few sentences? She is a professor of practice of creative writing at Tulane University. Just so wonderful. The practice of creative writing. I mean, that just captures you all over. That just captures you all over. So Bernice, I believe that I've never seen a more accurate description of just what that is. Before we really get into the questions, can you tell me? Can you speak to that just a little bit? And is that something? Is that a new slot
Professor
for
of practice?
And what does it mean?
So professor of practice is a title given to people who have been in their life's position for some time. So I'm a writer first, and I've taken those skills into the classroom. So that's basically what professor of practice is. Like this is my life's work, right? I'm doing it. I've been doing it, and now I'm going to go into the classroom and teach.
I think
these
it's
children
perfect.
how to do it.
Yeah, I think it's perfect. Obviously, it's something that have not heard of before, but I kind of feel like they made it for you. It's
No,
I've seen it at other universities, though. It's popular, and what it does, it allows the university to recruit people who have the outstanding skills that Bernice has, without forcing them to get a gazillion degrees to prove that they know what they know, because we know they know what they know because they've already done it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And but the first 2 years I was at Tulane, I was there as a visiting assistant professor of creative writing, and I was Jesmyn Ward was on sabbatical for 2 years, and I was sitting in for her. And so in my head, I was just going to be there for 2 years and not trying to form any long-lasting emotional connections. And
they didn't want to let you go, did they?
Yeah, they were like, well, we'll give you professor of practice to stay. And I was like, okay, tenure would be nice, but I was professor of practice. I said tenure would be nice.
Yeah, exactly. We were just talking about tenure.
Yeah.
I was thinking that you were talking about the practice of. Well, you've been in the classroom. You certainly have. Actually, you just blazed trails in certain kinds of African American writing, and being taken seriously in talking about just everyday people, the extraordinariness in everyday people. As we said, everybody sort of wants to write a novel, and everybody kind of feels like they know an extraordinary person, or there's something in their lives, and that's not always what people want.
Right.
It says that, at least, they say there's at least one good book in all of us. So, but can you tell us the difference? And is there a difference between just, I got this story about my family I really want to write, and saying, you know what, I have this idea for a novel. I think this is a novel. This is a story. This has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Can you tell us sort of the difference between that? And I think it will help. Don't you think it might help people who are yearning to write a novel, and that may not be what they're yearning to do?
Right. So, as we all know, art is very subjective. So I can read something from a student who wants to write a novel, and in my mind, I would be saying, who wants to read this? But really what I'm saying is, I don't want to read this. It doesn't mean that there's not an audience for this work. Right.
Okay.
And so I'm very sensitive to that, because when I was shopping sugar, it took 10 years before someone saw the possibility in the story. And the majority of my rejection letters said there's not an audience for this work.
Yes.
So I try not to err on that side, right? And I continue to encourage the student to continue writing, and keep my personal feelings to myself, because just because I don't believe it's a novel or it's novel worthy doesn't mean that someone else might not see the potential in the story. But yeah, I absolutely agree. Like, everything that goes on paper should not be published.
Yeah. Well,
Bernice, I have a question. Is there a difference between being an awesome writer and also being an awesome storyteller? How do you put those two things together?
Wow. I think that I am better on the page. There's some people who are really talented at orally telling a story. Like Tina, I went to see you when you told your story at the Moth.
Oh,
right? See,
good.
that's not my forte.
Yeah.
But I can tell a story on the page. So there are some people, and Tina's one of those people, who are gifted at doing both. For me, it's going to be the page, because my memory comes and goes, and I got to stop and start. And I don't think those are the things that make a good oral storyteller. Right? I think it should be smooth and concise and entertaining. Right. Yeah. But there are people who are really gifted at doing both of those things, and doing both of those things very well.
What would you tell storytellers who are not writers how the role,
how to get it done? Yeah.
How to get the story on the page? I would say find someone who can write and work with that person.
Record it and let somebody transfer.
That is also a very good suggestion as well. Record it and let someone write it down, and put all of the the nuanced and atmospheric stuff that needs to happen when you're writing a story on the page.
Well, it kind of sounds like to me that I'm trying to fit things into boxes, and you, thank God, are not trying to fit things into boxes. You are there to let the student
do whatever whatever makes the student comfortable. I say over and over again that I cannot teach anyone how to write. right?
Mm.
I can't teach you how to write. I can provoke you. That's what I do. I bring in stuff that provokes my students into wanting to tell a very specific type of story on the page.
So when you get a student and you read something that they have written that just blows your mind, what do you do? How do you handle that? Have you had that happen? And what's happened to those students?
I have had some really talented students, and what I do is I let them know how blown away I am by the story, and I encourage them to shop it, to submit it. You know, there are plenty of journals out here. I have some students who just write because they enjoy writing, but they've not considered it as like a viable option to actually earn money or find you know, a publication that's willing to take them on. And I always encourage them, just, you know, send it out there, throw caution to the wind, leap. And a no is not going to end your life.
That's right. Because I got a few no's. And I'm still here.
Right.
No, actually, I was just listening because, number one, you know, I was kind of a little mesmerized, but it sounds like it's so interesting how the universe sends the right people to the right places. I mean, the universe has clearly sent you to teach students and to be, you know, so open and welcoming. And, you know, so I have one last question, because people ask this all the time, and maybe you can, you know, help some folks who may not even know what they're asking. You know, when people ask you, what's your process and how often do you write? And do you write in the morning, or do you write in the evening? Or, you know, do you have music? You know, what do you tell them?
So it changes for me, you know, book by book. Early on in my writing career, when I was just writing, I found that the mornings worked really well for me. And then as I, you know, 2-3 years in, then I kind of shifted and found that the evenings worked well. I do remember that I did not write in the summer, but once fall started, you know, showing herself, it got the air started getting a little, you know, frosty. I was ready to sit down and write it. So I would usually write from like late September, early October, straight through until May. And that's, you know, I was writing a book a year. And so I always had to hand in my manuscript in May. And then they publish it the following, like January, February. But since I've been teaching, it's completely different, because I found that I cannot write the way I want to write and teach. So I'm kind of like just completely focused on the teaching, and it takes a lot out of me. If I have 45 students a semester, I'm reading a lot.
Whoa.
I'm reading a lot. I'm editing a lot. I'm having a lot of meetings with the kids. And so I don't really have enough energy left for my own writing. So I took this spring semester off so that I could dedicate myself to my writing. And I know at the end of August, when school opens up, you know, that's the end of that. But my process is I do not write to music. It has to be completely silent, because I need to hear the people talking to me. Right. I can't write out in public. Like I find it fascinating. People who write at coffee shops.
Coffee shops. Like August Wilson, you know, wrote all those wonderful plays sitting at the edge of a counter, a diner counter.
Yeah. One of my best friends, who is an editor and a writer, only writes in Starbucks for the most part. She has her favorite Starbucks, and she just sits there and writes and writes and writes. So yeah, you're right. It's hard to do. I can't do that either.
I'm already, you know, easily distracted. So that's why it has to be quiet. The office, the room, whatever room I'm working in, must be spotless, must be clean, because I can find any excuse not to write. Because you know, it's hard to start. And sometimes it's scary to start. Sometimes I feel ill when I sit down, like, oh, can I do it again? and
Really?
and I ease myself in, and then I look up and maybe I've written 2,000-3,000 words, and I'm enjoying it. I'm there. I'm in the story, and I'm in love again. But falling in love, each time
Well,
I sit down to fall in love, it's a rough start.
yeah, that's why they call it falling, huh?
Yes, that's why they call it falling.
Oh, Bernice, as you can see, we could talk all afternoon. We're going to have you back again. You are a fascinating and wonderful guest and so informative. And I have to say again, such a kind teacher and a kind writer. I'd love to be one of your students. It sounds really good. Sounds really good. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you,
for having
Bernice.
me.
And listen, we're just
So
down
nice
the road.
meeting
So
you.
anytime you are in Macon, you're not that far away. So come on over here to
I love
Savannah, and
it. Look, we can all
yeah,
have lunch together. That sounds good. Well, I
yeah.
love you, sweetie. Thank you so much
Love
for
you
this.
too. Have a good
Bye.
night. Bye.
Thank you. Well, we have lived long enough to know a lot of stuff. So we love this last segment, Tina. We call it dropping some wisdom. So my wisdom for you, I'm going to give my wisdom. You have some wisdom to drop as well. And our podcast listeners are telling us that this is the part of our podcast that they like the most. They love the
They have,
wisdom.
haven't they?
Mhm.
Yeah.
They really have. We've been hearing from them. So my wisdom today is about a seat at the table. I was having a conversation the other day with my 38-year-old daughter who just signed up to start with a startup company that's going to manufacture and sell products on the e-commerce. They don't have stores. They don't have any heavy overhead. And it's a company that's led and run by millennials. They're all young people. So they're part of an industry creating a new business model, which I so admire. So she's excited because, in addition to all the ways that they're creating models for business, they also have something called Take Your Dog to Work Day. Once a month, she can take Kobe to work with her. So she's
That was
excited
a
about that.
pleasure, huh?
Yeah, that was one of the things that said this is the place for you. Because it's about the culture. But it's a small company, only a couple of dozen employees so far, and Shelby, that's my daughter's name, will have a seat at the table. Now, this is nothing new for Shelby because, for years I've been telling her about the benefit of my own experience about having a seat at the table. In fact, I included a couple of chapters about the value of having a seat at the table in my memoir, Coming Full Circle, which came out last year. So for those young people who do not know, here are some of the benefits of having a seat at the table. One is when you are seated at the table, you have a greater understanding about how decisions are made, and you even get to weigh in on decision making. When you're at the table, you can advocate for your own ideas and issues that you care about and people you want to elevate. It's a great way to be sure people like you or people you value are in the pipeline for promotions or just getting good assignments. When you're at the table and you get firsthand knowledge about how the company or organization is doing, whether they're making money or losing revenue. Sometimes that makes you think about whether the company is a good fit for you long term. So maybe you want to stay, or maybe you think, maybe this is not the place I want to be. But just being at the table, you get that information first. Yeah. When you're at the table, you learn different skill sets like marketing and accounting and advertising and product development and areas that might not even be in your own skills. So you learn a lot. You may not have to do those jobs, but it always helps to know how it works. And when you're at the table, you become a trusted employee, and you must, I repeat, must never violate that trust. So if there's some information that comes down at the table and they said, we can't tell the staff this until Monday or next week, you must not violate that trust. So Tina, if you remember, I started my memoir with a quote from former Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm. If they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. Sister Shirley knew how important that seat was. But sometimes, like Shelby, like me, sometimes we can't wait too long to be invited to the table. Like us, sometimes you have to leave and go somewhere else where a seat at the table is sincerely offered. So look for those opportunities, and then always remember when the time is right to invite someone else to have a seat at the table with you. So that's my wisdom.
That's wonderful. That's why I love your and Shelby's stories, because they speak to our generation who have lived through these things, and her generation. And I know Shelby. I know that she has another generation behind her that she's going to share those that same wisdom with. So that's really lovely.
Yeah. So what wisdom are you dropping this time?
My wisdom is, well, before I even say it, I'm going to say that, as we've told you before, Wanda is not a cursor. She does not do much cursing. On the other hand, I curse like a sailor. So my wisdom is, and I'm not going to be put in a box. I said, this is our podcast. We say what we want to say.
Do you, Tina? Do you?
Do me. We've earned it. Okay. So my wisdom is protect your shit. It sounds like, something you might hear in the barbershop or somewhere like that. But I want you to know that this is serious stuff. I had a girlfriend in the past who just had lots of financial trouble. She was in and out financial, and she just needed some help. But at some point, your help runs out, and all you have is a good word for your friend. You don't have any more funds for her. And that's sort of where I was, but I was very concerned about her. And she was talking about losing her home. And, how she didn't know whether she was going to be able to keep it. And so we didn't talk for a couple of days. And I reached out to her because I wanted to know, I told her to call me, let me know what's going on, and she didn't call me. And I talked to her, and she had gotten her stuff together and made sure a payment was made. I don't know how she did it. She didn't tell me any of this. And I said, oh my goodness, it was a complete turnaround. So I asked her, I said, my goodness, what happened? She said, I was sitting here looking at my furniture, and I said, hey, this is my shit they're going to be putting out on the street. Protect your shit, okay? And when I say that, of course, protect your belongings and the things that are dear to you. But what I'm talking about really are the things that are inside you and important to you. Protect your reputation. That's your shit. Don't let somebody drag you down where then you look as bad as they do. Protect your intellect, protect what you know, protect your history. Those stories that grandmama and all of them used to tell me, I've made a career on them. I've made a career. If I didn't have a history, I don't know what I would do. I wouldn't know what Mulberry, the little town of Mulberry, looked like. I wouldn't know, what inside the juke joint looked like. Protect your shit. Decide what it is that's important to you. It may be your dream. And every time you mention it, some people give you that, you always talking about that, and you ain't gonna never do. Stop telling those people about it. Protect your dream. Protect that thing that's inside of you that keeps you going, that spark. Protect your shit. Your family is your shit. Your girlfriends are your shit. Protect your shit. That's my wisdom this week.
That is powerful. Powerful. Thank you. Well, that's it for this third episode of Two Old Chicks, Tina.
I know we surprise our own selves sometimes.
I know.
We're so very, very pleased to be with y'all. So pleased that you would listen in to us and think that these two old chicks really do have a whole lot of shit to say.
Absolutely. So we hope you listeners will tell others about our podcast and join us again next time when we will discuss the topic, what's in a name? Just think about that. What's in a name? So we'll tell you more about that. And since July is Mental Health Awareness Month, we're also going to mention the importance of getting mental health care. And of course, we'll be dropping some more wisdom.
Yeah. Make sure you subscribe to Two Old Chicks on Spotify and on YouTube, where you can see us in full color the following Wednesday. You can follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at Two Old Chicks Podcast. And we'll see you soon. Take care. Love and peace.
Bye-bye, everybody. Love.